Hey, this is Greg from Allegaeon, and you're watching RichardMetalFan.
So what's up, guys? It's episode 48 of RichardMetalFan Interviews here at the Masquerade in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have the pleasure to talk to my buddy Greg from Allegaeon. How are you doing today, Greg?
I'm great, and I'm glad that I made it in before you reached 50.
That's great. That's awesome. So I'm like, the damn traffic took forever to get here. It almost took me 10 minutes to get me to the exit, which it normally doesn't even take that long.
Don't they know you have important things to do? They don't know how important you are.
Yeah, Atlanta, get your shit together, man. So basically this format is kind of want to go through your catalog, talk about the history of the band from where you started to now. Let's just dive right back into the very beginning, though. What were the first bands that got you in the metal and what made you want to start playing guitar?
Oh, man. Megadeth. Megadeth's going to be number one.
I got the Rust in Peace patch right here.
You have all the patches.
Why, thanks. Thanks. I get compliments on my vests all the time.
Yeah, no, I don't know how close this thing needs to be to my face, but is this going to work? It's going to work.
It's good. Good.
Okay.
You're doing a great job.
So I was kind of my music development kind of really happened in the 90s. I was born in 79. So if that gives anybody kind of a window to what was around. So by the time I was a teenager, we were firmly in the grunge era, which was not so great for guitar playing. So it was a lot of looking back to the 80s and stuff like that. So it was a lot of that, a lot of thrash, Overkill.
Awesome.
I'm just gonna read your vest. Maiden,
Wow.
Slayer, all everything on your vest. Yes.
Thanks. Thanks. I need to get an Allegiant patch for my vest.
You do. You're letting me down pretty hard.
I'm sorry. I failed. So what were your bands like before starting up Allegiant, or was Allegiant the band, the first band?
No, I had kind of a Slayer and Megadeth mix band way back in the day called Cerebral Onslaught, and we were all right. No, nothing special, nothing to write home about. And then we kind of made the switch to kind of Nightwish symphonic kind of metal. When I was in college, that's when metal kind of all seemed to die pretty much, which it didn't. I just was unaware of what was going on in the US, but Risk came out, Load came out, and that kind of just I have no
weird
problem.
Time of metal in that
time.
time.
It was just weird. It was a weird time, and it's not like those albums are bad or anything. I just kind of lost interest, especially for me in where I was in my life. So I started finding the European metal, like Something Wild from Children of Bodom. Their first record came out.
Great album.
Yeah, and then Horacle from In Flames. Nice. And that's kind of where my love of Gothenburg and the Scandinavian music kind of came out.
Yeah,
so.
I gotta love that Swedish death metal scene. I'm actually seeing Dark Tranquillity Thursday.
Yeah,
interviewing Mikkel.
No, he's a good dude.
Yeah, I've met him twice. He's awesome. So going into 2008 was when Allegiant formed. How'd y'all form?
Well, the band at the time was called Allegiance, and I believe the band started in 2004 or something. That's kind of when little sprinkles of what was to become put together. So Ryan and our original bass player Aaron Donahoe got together when they were in college and started jamming around. And then fast forward a few years, and I don't think they got really serious about it until 2006. And then they played 2 shows, and then they lost their guitar player or something like that. And that's where I had moved to get my master's at Denver University in classical guitar. So, and then I just really wanted to be in a band, and they're the first ones that would actually try me out. And then it was just supposed to be a fill-in, but I had so much fun that I was fine to stick around, and it was a lot of learning on my part because I had been in the classical world for so long. So I had a lot of learning to do on electric. So, but just practice my balls off and good enough to stick around. And now I'm the only one left.
Yeah, let's hope it stays
last
that
man
way.
standing.
Let's hope it stays that way, man. But then that same year, you released your Self-Titled EP. Was that something to like hand out to people to like get like the buzz going on for Allegaeon?
Yeah, I mean, okay, kind of the crux of this was one of my best friends got an internship at Century Media. And so it was like, hey, because I was not happy. There was, we were young and dumb, and there was some personality conflicts within the band. So I was like 1 foot out of the door with me and Aaron, who is a great guy. It was like personally, like we got along, and then I was super oversensitive too, and we don't need to go in that, but yes, me and Aaron were butting heads a little bit, and so I think I was gonna leave. I wasn't too happy, but then it was like, look, we're going to he'll hand our demo in to the head of the A&R department at Century Media. So we decided to throw the money down and go in with Dave to do that. And I was like, you don't have to put any of my songs on this, because I had fully planned to leave the band.
Cool.
And then, things took off, so I stayed around.
All right, and then wasn't around where you originally got signed to Metal Blade? Right around that time to release Fragments of Form and Function?
Yeah, we got signed in 2009.
All right, how did Metal Blade find Allegaeon?
Oh, so when we got the demo done, it went to Century Media. We never heard back, and then we just sent it to a whole bunch of labels.
Yeah.
And then we only heard back from 2, Metal Blade and Relapse. Relapse said they would love to sign us, but they didn't have the funds at that moment. And then Metal Blade told us to get lost.
Yeah.
But the greatest thing about Metal Blade is they kept checking in on us. We'd get an email from them every couple months going, hey, what are you guys doing? And I think they were just making sure that if they were going to invest in us, that we would invest in ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's little insurance policy on their part.
Yeah, and how was that whole like touring cycle for Fragments?
Pretty much non-existent. We I think we did some Weekend Warrior stuff, and we did one tour called the Metal Arise tour with a band called The Devastated and The Browning.
Ooh,
right?
Awesome.
So it was a very eclectic lineup. There was us like kind of being the kind of tech death band, and then The Devastated were kind of like a Suicide Silence kind of band, and then The Browning, which was the kind of dance electronic metal thing. And and it was a Live Nation tour, so we ate really good. Yeah. That's what I remember about that tour. I was like,
living the
catering. The catering on this tour is amazing.
Yeah, and so then going to 2012 with the second album, Form Shifter, was there like pressure to follow up Fragments of Form and Function? Because usually when the second album, like when the first album does like a lot of hype, there's like a pressure to follow up from that. Was there a lot of pressure to follow up Fragments with going into Form Shifter?
No, not at all, because I mean our album sold relatively well, but the lineup we had at the time wasn't too interested in touring unless it was going to be this, massive tour, and those just never came. So we just really didn't tour. So when we did Form Shifter. That was the only album we didn't do with Dave Otero. Everything else we've ever done has been with Dave Otero, and we did that with Daniel Castleman in Escondido, California, and it was kind of a weird time. I mean, there was some tensions within the band. From touring.
Yeah.
And so I mean it was all right. It was a weird time. I had fun. So
yeah, and this year is also the 10-year anniversary of the album. Do you have like a different perspective about it now as opposed to when you first put it out? Sometimes when you're rushed to do an album, especially your sophomore record, because you have your whole life to write your debut. Yeah,
right?
Totally.
And then the sophomore slump, because we didn't have as much time to write that, I kind of felt more freedom because there wasn't a lot of nitpicking my songs, so I could do what I wanted, right? So I have really good memories about that. It was great because that was the only record we ever did with JP Andrade, and he's a great friend to this day, so Yeah, there was some good memories from that.
Awesome. Is there like maybe a possibility we can get like a celebration of that album somehow? Maybe do to where you play some like deep cuts.
I wouldn't discount it, but because we just put out a new record that seems to be doing really well, we're gonna strike while the iron's hot on this. So.
Right. And then next up is Elements of the Infinite, and that was right around the time when I got into you guys. What was it like going from Form Shifter to Elements?
That was the album that was kind of my fuck you to the world album, because so at that point our original guitar player Ryan quit the band and he went to do Pyrithian with Tim Lambesis, and
Wow.
he quit, and then like a week later Tim got caught
Shit.
trying to kill hire a hitman to kill his wife.
Hide your wife, hide your kids.
So, yeah, it was this odd time, and then I just kept getting messages and slew of messages. Your career's over. Without Ryan, you're never going to be anything, and so that was really my fuck you album.
Yeah.
Like, you think, it's like I contributed half the music before. Kind of, go fuck yourself. I'm here to stay. And that's nothing against Ryan. That was against the people that said that to me.
Yeah. And I think it was when you got Michael in the band.
Yeah.
How'd you hook up with him?
Michael was in a band with one of my students, and literally the only guy that I asked that said yes. Everybody was afraid to play Ryan's stuff, and Michael was the only one who was like into it. He was super happy. We did that first tour with Michael, and he just was awesome. And I had never seen him like that, because I had watched Mike for years before that in other bands, and always great guitar player, but very almost a timid on the stage. And then the first show with Allegaeon, it was like a monster was unleashed, and I was just like, oh dude, this kid's awesome. We did the one tour with him, and then he made the joke, he's like, if you ever ask me to join this band, it needs to be like The Bachelorette. So I got a tux and a rose and rang his doorbell.
All right. And so you ended up touring for a little bit, but then there was also the last album with Ezra. Why did he leave?
Ezra had some demons with alcohol.
Oh shit.
And it was a bad situation, but Ezra is doing fantastic, and I'm actually doing a new project with Ezra
wow.
on the side. You get the scoop.
First ever taste.
And it was really unfortunate. Ezra was one of my best friends, so it was a very painful time, because there was a while there before Mike was in the band. It was literally Corey wasn't touring with us, our bass player at the time, so it was really me and Ezra against the world, and that's what it felt like. And so.
All right. And so how did you hook up with Riley?
So Riley's band, Son of Aurelius, came through Denver, and they needed a place to stay, and I was like, oh yeah, guys, crashed with me. And I was friends with those guys since that day, and that was around the Form Shifter era. And then we just stayed in touch. I really liked the guys, and then we put out Elements of the Infinite like a week apart from their album Under a Western Sun. So before the records came out, we traded, and I got to hear Under a Western Sun, and I was like, his vocals blew me away. It's still one of my favorite discs of all time. So.
All right. And then going forward with his first album with the band Proponent for Sentience, when Riley first joined the band, did he listen to like the first three albums and be like, this is what you need to do, or did you wanted him to bring his own mix to Allegaeon?
Well, Riley filled in because we felt there was a time where we felt that Ezra wasn't, he wanted to get, he didn't want to leave the band, but it wasn't safe for him to be on the road. So Riley filled in for a tour, and then the last show of the tour was a huge festival in Fort Collins, where Allegiant's from, and Ezra came back for that show.
Nice.
And so he just watched what Ezra did, and when we did Proponent, he kind of really tried to match the range of Ezra. Ezra's very mid, has a really awesome like mid range, where Riley's natural voice is way lower. So if you listen to Apoptosis and now Damnum, you'll see that he's going more into his comfort range. But so when you first do a singer change, it's good to try to not rock the boat a little bit.
Right. And was there like pressure with Riley joining the band? Because usually when bands like change vocalists, it's always like 9 out of 10 times will it work or won't it work? Well, obviously in this case it did work. Did you feel like pressure when with the new vocalist Riley?
Absolutely. Every time you change, because the vocals is the face of the band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you have to everybody has their own personality. So there's jumping their personality on stage. And, Ezra had big shoes to fill. He's a huge personality.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
We had to reorient, how we approach the band, So, yeah, there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of, mean words, because when people are attached to a certain member. And, but, it's all right.
Yeah. And it was also the first album where you also did clean vocals. Did you ever have to, adjust your playing with the vocal styles, from the clean vocals to harsh vocals?
Not until Damnum, because Riley always had to write around what we had already written, right? So, he would try to massage certain parts. Like, he hates his vocal line in Terrathon the Quake because I have this little guitar melody going on there, and he's like writing around it was a nightmare for him.
Shit.
And it's learning to write. When you're a death metal band, you kind of you just especially being techie, you just write so the music's super solid and not the vocals are almost an afterthought of a rhythm, because it's a rhythmic thing overlaid, right? So it's that you want that hooky rhythmic thing that overlays the music, right?
Yeah.
So, but with clean vocals, it's a little different. You have to leave enough space for them and stuff.
Absolutely. And then going to your next album, Apoptosis, I love that album. It was one of my favorites from 2019. And I feel like that was around the time, in my opinion, where I feel like you kind of experimented more and so I got more progressive with that.
Yeah, Apoptosis is a weird album in our catalog, just because it was the first one since Form Shifter that we felt rushed. And unlike Form Shifter, we just felt rushed because we just had to do it. With Apoptosis, we were rushed because we had a lot of tours coming up, right? And you've seen this throughout, metal. A good one is Souls of Black, right? Yeah. Testament had that Judas Priest tour, so they threw it together, right?
Yeah, it's my favorite Testament album too.
So, I mean, if you ask Testament, they'll say it kind of sounds rushed to them. Apoptosis sounds rushed to us, and so it was kind of we're a science band, so the science was cranked up to 11, and then just trying to get everything done. There was a few tracks that we were just not. I was so happy with the music for Extremophiles A, and then when it came to the vocals, we were dealing with tour stuff as we were tracking, and then we'd get super angry and then have to go in the booth, and we had to scrap ideas and just kind of rearrange it. So it was a lot of things. That's a good metaphor for Apoptosis. So I really love that album. I think there's amazing things on it, but it definitely sounds rushed, and we weren't 100% happy with it.
Right. Yeah. Right, and I especially love the title track. Probably, in my opinion, you guys' longest song you have ever written. It's the 10 minutes long. I almost consider it kind of be like you guys' Rime of the Ancient Mariner in a way. What was that whole writing the title track for Apoptosis?
That was all Mike. Mike did that guy. I know that I think when people think of Apoptosis, the song, the main thing they think about is the intro and how it builds up, because it's so epic. I don't know what much to say about it other than the solos at the end were really fun to play back to back to back to back.
Yeah, and then it was also 2020 when, of course, the world went to shit. You also did a cover, and then you did the concerto in DM. How did that whole what that whole idea has come to be to cover the Yes song, Roundabout, which of course became a meme.
Yeah, no, we were playing Hellfest in France, and we were just thinking about cover ideas to do because the Prague thing really worked out well for us. 'Cause the 2 Rush songs that we had done, and they were working out well. So we were like, yeah, let's do something else. But we didn't want to do Rush, and I'm a huge Yes fan. That's one of my favorite bands, and so I wanted to do Machine Messiah. I think Riley wanted to do. I forget what song he wanted to do, but so we were just like, and then the meme, the Roundabout meme, kind of came out. So it was like, oh, we should
be continued.
Yeah, the to be continued. So it was kind of like, oh, we should just do Roundabout because it was kind of hot at the moment. So I was like, all right, cool, right? As long as I get to do Yes, I'm happy. So, and then Concerto in D minor was actually on the vinyl of Apoptosis.
Oh wow! I only have the CD version.
Yeah, so that's right, because we cut in Flanders Fields and Concerto from the CD version.
All right, and now we finally get to Damnum, which I've heard it's absolutely kick-ass. Was this album intended to be kind of like a follow-up to Apoptosis, or is this almost kind of like a new beginning for Allegaeon in a way?
It was, I wouldn't say it's a new beginning. I mean, we kind of made, because, Apoptosis we weren't very happy with the record, so we made some conscientious decisions. We thought that, maybe if there was some more emotional content that the delivery could be done a little bit better. So we made the conscious effort to, maybe we needed a break from the science thing just so.
Yeah. No hailing science.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm super passionate about science, and I love that, but I'm not the one who has to sing it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So to help, I would rather give everybody a way better record than stick to this one little thing, So, because it seems we were really kind of not catering to the metal scene as a whole. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people can relate to more emotional things, and only a few people can relate to the interest in science. So
right. And was there like a preconceived idea with this album, or just did it come like naturally and organically?
When the pandemic hit, we went through a lot of bullshit, a lot of death and everything, and so it colored the album like that.
All right, and this is also your first album with your new drummer, Jeff. How did you end up finding him?
Jeff filled in for Riley's other band, Continuum, on a Bloodletting tour, and and Riley spoke really highly of him, and we had some amazing people that wanted the gig, and his audition was just kind of the best, so that's where we went with, and super easy guy to get along with too.
All right.
So,
all right,
and he's young, and that helps for a drummer. It really helps.
Yeah, did he bring in something like new rhythmically to Allegaeon that y'all didn't have before?
Well, he's a genius. He's getting his master's at Harvard right now. So, the way that he approaches drums is very, he's very much into his rudiments and very much into drums, in a way that we haven't experienced before. So, he's always oh, I'm going to just try to do this polyrhythm for fun. So he's always kind of working on little patterns and stuff like that for fun, right? So that he brings in so much that he's just oh, it would be super weird and fun to do. So this was the first album that we let the drummer kind of run wild. We always program the drums out in the demos, and then he changed beats. It was the first time that ever happened. So,
right. And going more into the songwriting, I feel like your music is also very rhythm driven, but also very melodic. So, do you usually lay down the rhythm first and then melody? How does that whole thing come to be?
Whatever works when you're writing it.
Awesome. And do you usually try to like experiment, or is there like a formula that Elysian sticks with?
Not really. The songs develop as they develop. Sometimes we, try to stick with pop song formats, just because that's, a really catchy way to do it. Like, you put the tech elements in, but then you kind of stick to a pop format just so that there's a chorus for people to latch onto. But we had a couple songs on Apoptosis that they were through composed with no choruses. So it's how the songs come around.
All right. And then got two more questions for you. Kind of like going into the live playing, is there like a similar energy to playing live as to recording, or are they almost kind of like separate?
They're completely separate entities at all. They're separate monsters. I used to get really upset when I couldn't do things in the studio. Now I don't care. It's like whatever it's going to take to get it done. Do we need to slow it down to get it cleaner? It doesn't matter. Like live, you can play it, and it's so loud. You're not going to hear like artifacts in your sound. It's like it's so under the microscope when you're recording that you have to do weird things to do that. Like I have to mute all my strings and like punch in a note just so it, because everything's so detailed. It's not, they're not the same at all. So I don't treat them as such.
All right, and the final question I want to ask you is probably the hardest question, because I love asking this, because usually I would get like the simplest answer and pretty much a long answer. So how do you know when a song is done?
Well, I feel it when it's done,
Yeah.
So, I mean, the biggest thing for me is the flow of the song. It's if everything flows together right and the songwriting element is there, then it's pretty much done. But there's a lot of things, especially in Apoptosis, that was like pulling teeth. Interphase meiosis was one that took months and months and months to get right.
Right.
So.
Awesome. So before we go, I just want to thank you for this interview. It's going to be an awesome show tonight with you guys, Omnium Gatherium and Black Crown Initiate. There's just anything else with the release of Damnum that you would like to promote in terms of like tours and everything? This will be uploaded by midnight, so it hasn't been announced. Don't say it.
We got that Europe tour coming in like November, and we'll have a headline tour that hasn't been announced, but it's going to be in June. So be on the lookout for that. That's fine. I can't give anything away, but headline tour in June.
You'll just tell me when the camera's off. Yeah, so anyway, thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Everybody, Greg from Allegaeon. See you next time.